This is a little bonus episode. I think maybe I'll make these every once in a while. Maybe think of these bonus episodes as a little snack to tide you over between the main course of sacred conversations we normally serve up. These are the episodes between the episodes of between. I don't know. Thanks for being here. I wanted to tell you a story about how faith, somebody else's faith, taught me a lesson about how to be a citizen, how to be a human, how to be with other people. And I wanted to maybe let you know a little bit more about why I believe this podcast matters. Listen, I just want people to feel less alone. I just want us to know how to be with each other again. I want us to lock eyes with a stranger and wonder about their story enough to lean in and listen. I want us to tune into the hearts of people on the margins and feel the vibrating souls of the silenced. I want us to connect again because I think the thing we all hope God might be can be found in that interchange. The emptiness we feel isn't inside us. I think it's between us. So bring whatever flavor of faith or spirituality you've got to the conversation. I'm pretty sure we could dig around in it together and find some ancient clues about how we're supposed to connect deeply on a soul-to-soul level with our neighbors and enemies and kids and parents and grandparents and coworkers and long-lost friends and broken relationships and everyone we encounter. That's all we're trying to do here. I think if we can get better at the space between us, everything else might heal. So this podcast is, about that. It's me curiously digging around other people's wonderfully diverse faith and spiritual lives to see if we can find clues about how we're really supposed to be with each other. The world is messed up and it needs us. The loneliness has left us languishing. Schools are getting shot up and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Our political leaders seem to have left the station without us and they're driving the train in a scary direction. We need each other. We need to find each other again. I really believe this podcast matters. I believe in all the work we're doing within the Between community. I believe it matters. My name is Matt Matson. I'm the host of this podcast and the creator of Between, and I'm really glad you're here. Not long ago, I think it was June of 2022, I was on a business trip in Washington, D.C. I was there to be a keynote speaker for this beautiful nationwide organization that empowers young Jewish women with values like faith and honesty and humility. Since my talk wasn't until later that evening, I did what I often do when I have a free day in a city that isn't my home. I went for a long run. I love running. I'm a runner. This is what I do in my free time. I get excited by it. I know a lot of people hate it, but I love it, especially when I'm traveling. I get to soak in the culture. I get to see cool places from a different angle than you get to see them when you're like a tourist or just a regular business traveler. And sometimes I happen upon surprises. So I took an Uber to downtown DC. The hotel for the conference that I was speaking at was like way out in the suburbs. And I took an Uber downtown, down to the mall where the monuments and the White House and the museums and the Capitol building are all located. And I ran. It was a beautiful, perfect summer day. I ran far. Man, it was fantastic. But then I ended my run just beyond the U.S. Capitol, up a couple of blocks, right in front of the United States Supreme Court. See, I had seen on the news that morning that the landmark abortion case, Roe versus Wade, had been overturned by the Supreme Court. And I figured there might be some interesting stuff to see by the court. Sure enough, I walked right into the middle of a loud, crowded, rowdy protest. You might even have seen clips of this protest on the news. It was big. It was all over. Signs, placards, bullhorns, T-shirts, Bibles being beaten, and pictures of unborn fetuses. It was a lot to stumble into. But I walked all the way into the middle of it. I wanted to be there because first I had an opinion on the matter. But that's not why I'm telling the story. See, I wanted to see people up close and try to feel the heartbeat of our country in the middle of a huge moment like this. Friends, it was not a pretty scene. People were shouting angrily at each other, vitriol, hate, rage. It was all on full display. I stayed for, probably like an hour, and then I had to catch a car back to my hotel for the conference. But man, that experience being there, it'll live in my memory forever. When it was time for me to speak at the conference, I happened to be presenting on a Friday evening. And as the sun was going down on that Washington, D.C. hotel, this group of Jewish women who had kindly invited me to deliver a talk on human connection also invited me to join them in a pre-speech Shabbat dinner. And I'll be honest, I'd never eaten a formal Shabbat meal before, so I loved the ritual of it. I had a young collegiate leader of this organization seated next to me who guided me through all the prayers and blessings and steps of the meal. She was a gentle guide. It was so sweet of her to be so welcoming and to be okay with my ignorance in that moment and to just truly invite me into the meal and the story and the symbols and the togetherness. Then, as we enjoyed each other's company eating together, and before I was introduced, there was a short speech by the leader of the organization. The speech was about Roe versus Wade and how the overturned ruling would impact the women in the room. She talked gently about the diverse political viewpoints that were in that room, that very room. She spoke softly about the pain so many people feel around this issue of abortion, no matter what side they're on. And she almost whispered as she offered a simple blessing of love for everyone on this day of political upheaval. It wasn't a political speech. It was a loving speech. It wasn't about the issue. It was about the people. There was no shouting, no signs, no bullhorns. But it was a protest. That speech. It was a protest against the divisions that are tearing our society apart. It was a protest against not seeing each other, against not understanding each other, against not listening to each other, against not caring about each other's lived experiences. That soft, quiet, gentle, loving speech was not the protest that I had sought out that day, but it was the protest I needed to be a part of. I think we have a choice every day. We get to choose to love each other in this world full of reasons to hate or not. I loved that a faith-based organization, one outside of my own tradition, reminded me on that day what kind of citizen and what kind of human I really want to be. Hey, thanks to all you Betweeners out there for listening to this episode of the Between Podcast. Make sure you visit between.church on the internet to sign up for our mailing list. That's probably the most important thing, our email list. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. You can check out our 5-minute sermons, 5-ish minute sermons that we post every week. Follow us on social media. We got daily prayers. We got all sorts of other content. And join our community fully. We invite everyone. You are welcome here, no matter who you are or where you're from, no matter what you believe or even if you believe, no matter who you love or how you love, no matter what anybody else has ever told you about you. You are welcome and loved and celebrated here at Between. You know, my favorite church is the space between people. Now go with God's love and create the church between.